Can I ask you something kind of personal? When you walk into a room, do you ever feel like nobody really noticed you that you came in? Like you're there, you're present, but somehow you just blend in. And the worst part, there's always that one person who walks in and you just feel it. The whole room kind of shifts. And you've told yourself it's because they're prettier or louder or just more confident than you. But I don't think that's it. I really don't. And that's what this video is about. Hi, if you're new here, welcome. And if you've been here for a while, you already know I don't really do the whole tips and tricks thing. Like, I'm not going to give you a list of 10 things to do a party to seem more interesting. That's not what is this. Because honestly, I think most of us already know the surface stuff. Stand up straight, ask questions, make eye contact. We know, but knowing it and actually being it are two completely different things. So, what I want to talk about today is what's actually going on underneath. Why some people just have this quality, this energy about them, and why it has almost nothing to do with how they look or how much they talk. Because I used to think that most interesting people were just the most outgoing ones, the ones who told the best stories, who were the funniest in the group. And then I started paying closer attention. And what I found kind of changed everything for me. Okay, so here's the first thing. The most interesting people I've ever met, they were genuinely interested. Not interesting, but interested. And I know that sounds simple, it may be even a little obvious. But sit with it for a second. Most of us, when we're around other people, we're kind of in our own heads, right? We're thinking about what we're going to say next. We're monitoring how we're coming across. We are a little bit performing, and people can feel that. They can't always name it, but they can feel it. The girl who walks into a room and everyone gravitates toward her, she's not thinking about herself. She's genuinely curious about everything and everyone around her. She asks questions and actually listens to the answer instead of waiting for her turn to talk. She notices things. She picks up on the energy in the room. She's present. And here's what nobody tells you. Being present is incredibly rare. Like, actually rare. And most people are somewhere between half here and completely somewhere else in their head at any given moment. So when we show up and you're actually just there, curious, paying attention, it feels like a gift. It feels magnetic. I had this realization a couple years ago when I was going through a phase of being really in my head about how I came across in social situations. I was so focused on being like that I wasn't actually enjoying anything or anyone. And the second I stopped trying to be interesting and just started being interested in the people I was with, everything shifted. People started telling me things, real things, not small talk, actual conversations. And I wasn't even doing anything different on the outside. I was just listening differently. Okay, here's the second thing, and this one might sting a little. If you feel boring, it might be because you're bored. And I say that with so much love because I've been there. There was time in my life where if someone asked me what I'd been up to, I genuinely didn't have much to say. I'd been working, watching stuff, scrolling, just kind of existing in a loop. And it wasn't that my life was bad, it just wasn't mine in a way. I wasn't pursuing anything that actually lit me up. Here's the thing, interesting people have inner worlds. They have things they're genuinely curious about, obsessed with, working on. They read things, they think about things, they have opinions that aren't just borrowed from whoever they last talked to. And that richness, that inner life, it comes out in conversation without you even trying. It's in the way you talk, the things you reference, the questions you ask. You can't fake depth. People feel it. So if you want to become more interesting, the real work is building a life that genuinely interests you. And that might mean picking up something you've been putting off, learning something just because you want to know it, going somewhere alone, reading more, having actual opinions about things. Not so you have things to talk about at parties, but because when you're invested in your own life, you become someone who's alive in a way that other people want to be around. There's a difference between someone who talks about themselves a lot and someone who has a lot going on internally. The first one is exhausting. The second one is magnetic. You want to be more the second one, right? And I want to talk about something that I think is pretty specific to us as women. We're socialized from a really early age to make ourselves agreeable, to be likable, to not take up too much space, not have too strong opinions, not say things that might make people uncomfortable. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic or political or whatever. I'm saying it because it's true. And I think it's something we have to actively undo if we want to develop that kind of presence we're talking about. Because agreeable is not the same as interesting. The women I find most magnetic, most compelling, they have a point of view. Not in aggressive way, not in a debate way. They just know what they think and they're not afraid to say it. They'll disagree gently. They'll say, I actually see it differently and mean it. They have tastes. They have preferences. They know what they like and what they don't. And honestly, that's so rare that when you meet someone like that, you just want to keep talking to them. So start practicing having actual opinions. Not to be difficult, not to be contrarian, but because your perspective has value. Your take on things matters. The things you notice and care about and find beautiful and find ridiculous, that's you. That's actually you. And you're more interesting than you think you are. You're just maybe afraid to fully show up as yourself, which brings me to the next thing. And here's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. The most interesting people have this quality where they feel warm and open. But there's also something about them you haven't fully figured out yet. Like there's more beneath the surface. And I think that's something we kind of accidentally destroy when we overshare. And again, I say this with love because I've done it. When we're nervous or we want to connect or we want to be like, we sometimes just give everything away immediately. Every insecurity, every opinion, every detail, every story. And I think sometimes that actually disconnects people from us. Even though our intention was the opposite, there's something really beautiful about a woman who is warm and present and open, but who also has some mystery, who doesn't tell you everything at once, who lets things unfold slowly, who holds some things just for herself. That's not manipulation. That's not playing games. That's just having a private interior world that you don't immediately put on the table for everyone. It's also connected to self discipline, which I know is kind of a theme for a lot of you here. Because the discipline of not oversharing, not performing, not trying to get immediate validation, that takes actual self awareness. It takes knowing that you are enough even if someone doesn't immediately reflect it back to you. And that kind of quiet confidence, that's literally one of the most attractive qualities a person can have. Not confidence in the loud, looked at me way, but confidence in the I know who I am. I'm not desperate for your approval way. So that's the girl people want to figure out. That's the girl they keep thinking about after the conversation ends. Okay, last big thing, and this is maybe the most practical one. Becoming interesting is a daily practice, and most of it happens when you're alone. This is the part that doesn't get talked about enough because everyone wants the social strategy, the things to say at parties. But really, the most interesting version of you is built in the quiet moments. It's built when you read something that challenges the way you think and you actually sit with it. When you go for a walk without your phone and let yourself just think. When you try something you've never done before just to see what it's like. When you cook something new. When you allow yourself to be bad at something you're learning. It's built through depth of experience. And depth of experience comes from actually being in your life, not watching someone else's. I know a lot of us, myself included at times, spend a lot of time consuming other people's lives, other people's opinions, other people's aesthetics. And there is nothing wrong with that. But if that's mostly what you're doing, you don't have much material to work with when it comes to developing your own thing. You can't be interesting on a steady diet of other people's lives. You have to go out and live yours. Even the parts that feel small or unglamorous or like they don't belong on camera, because real experiences, even quiet ones, make you interesting in a way that no amount of curating your social presence ever will. The girl who spent on a Sunday afternoon teaching herself to make pasta from scratch and had a whole experience doing it, she has something to bring to a conversation. She has opinions now. She has a funny story about the disaster batch. She has something that actually hers. That's what builds the interesting person. Small, real, chosen experiences and accumulated over time. So if I had to distill all of this down into something simple, and I mean really simple, it's this. The most interesting person in the room is usually the most alive. She's present. She has an inner world. She has opinions. She has curious about other people. She's working on something that matters to her. She doesn't give herself away all at once. And none of that is about being louder or prettier or wittier than everyone else. It's about depth. It's about actually being in your own life. It's about doing the quiet work on yourself that eventually just shows up in a way you carry yourself. I think so many of us are waiting to become interesting until something big happens. A trip, a job, a relationship, some moment that makes us a better story. But you're already a story. You're already something worth paying attention to. You just maybe have to start paying attention to yourself first. Okay, that's it, and that's the whole thing. If this resonated with you, I'd really love to know. Drop it in the comments. Tell me what hit or what you're going to start doing differently. And if you're new here and if you want more of this kind of conversations about building yourself, your habits, your inner life, then stick around. This is kind of what we do here. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself. Bye.